Thank you.
All right, thank you for moving through that with a good clip. We will move right along now to Science, Engineering, Mathematics, and the Aerospace Academy from NASA. And John Hairston Jr. and Susan Brown are here to represent that program. Thank you both for coming.
Good afternoon. As a nation, we are facing a crucial shortage of young people prepared to enter the workforce in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, often referred to as STEM. The largest gap in the U.S. STEM workforce currently exists among African Americans, Hispanics, Native Americans, and people with disabilities. Collectively, these groups make up 24% of the general population, but only 7% of U.S. science and engineer workforce is made up by those particular groups. The NASA Science, Engineering, Mathematics, Aerospace Academy, known as SEMAA, is working to bridge this gap in 13 states and the District of Columbia by increasing the exposure and interest of historically underserved and underrepresented K-12 students with regard to STEM education and careers. Since its inception, the NASA SEMAA project has emerged as a national recognized provider of STEM education services, currently serving over 63,000 students, parents, caregivers, and teachers each year. One major innovation emerged from our initial understanding of this large and complex obstacles that stand between historical underserved and underrepresented students and the classroom. Our target population is often limited to one-time exposures and initiatives. We established SEMAA as a systemic initiative that engages students from grade K through 12 in a total of 441 hours of advanced studies in STEM prior to their enrollment in post-secondary institutions. Another innovation was the cultivation of a unique project design that focuses services not only on students, but also on parents and caregivers of those students. We recognize and appreciate very early that the fact that the parents and caregivers are the first and most influential teachers in children's lives. Additionally, we were aware of the need to expose students and families to the rapid advanced technologies that are driving America's 21st century workforce. The resulting project design included 3 core components that can be seen in operation every day in SEMAA locations. These components included hands-on inquiry-based NASA STEM curriculum, a family involvement program known as the Family Cafe, and a state-of-the-art aerospace educational laboratory. A third innovation is the administration of the project by performance-based contracts and subcontracts versus grants. This is an innovation that has made history in NASA procurement process and has significantly increased the accountability, has increased the efficiency and productivity of SEMAA sites throughout the country. Dr. Susan Brown, the director of NASA SEMAA in New Mexico, will share the impact in New Mexico.
NASA SEMAA has simply transformed K-12 STEM education within the university, the surrounding school districts, and also really the entire southeastern region of New Mexico. Since its inception in 2002, we have helped over 20,000, or we've engaged, inspired, and educated over 20,000 students, parents, caregivers, and teachers. Additionally, SEMAA has garnered over $500,000 financial and in-kind support from a broad base of diverse STEM stakeholders. In fact, just last week we were informed that our SEMAA project is going to be an annual line budget in our New Mexico State Legislature. Just a few of the ways that SEMAA has impacted K-12 STEM education in my state and community include the fact that SEMAA has led to the project or the cultivation of an entire K-12 STEM outreach department at the university, where it continues to serve as the cornerstone of department services. The SEMAA project motivated the development of the bachelor's degree. We have an aerospace engineering at the university. We also have implemented the NASA astrobiology curriculum within all of the freshman courses at Gadsden High School, which is a very poor school district in our nation.
SEMAA, in collaboration with over 200 plus partners, is increasing opportunities and changing attitudes towards STEM by providing access to NASA's unique facilities, NASA's people, and NASA's contents for students who are living in some of the most challenging environments. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have three, Ellen, Bill, and Ed.
What evidence would you point us to document the impact this is having on the gap you started discussing?
As we begin to look at the sites and roll up the data from that, right now we have a retention rate of about 85%.
I'm sorry, you have a what?
85% retention rate in our SEMAA program. We have a number of our students that are participating in other kinds of STEM projects. In fact, we introduced them to over 50 different projects this summer. We have pockets of excellence that we're looking at. For example, we have 8 of our students that have graduated from STEM from our SEMAA project that are working at Fernbank Museum in Atlanta that have entered into the first year of college in STEM careers. I personally work at NASA Glenn Research Center. We have an intern program. We have a pipeline effective at NASA Glenn Research Center to show that our students that are coming out of SEMAA go into a NASA project and NASA project into our internships. One of the things that we're working on this summer, and we'll be ready throughout the 08 school year, would be how we can roll up that data from the sites and begin to track our students nationally.
Do you have a follow-up, Ellen?
No.
Okay, Bill.
Yeah, I understand that each group or each site gets a grant for 3 years. Is that correct?
I'm sorry.
Well, my only question was, how do you keep that going after the 3 years? In other words, are they having much luck in finding alternate sources of funding to maintain the program after the 3-year grant period runs out?
One of the things we made a decision early on was that we would not give grants. We give contracts. We have one contractor who gives subcontracts. And the reason for that is it is impossible for us to manage 17 different grants all at once. We manage one grant, one contract. We also build into the operating program of the contract that they sign a sustainability partnership clause, which means we help them understand how to develop partners and what sustainability is all about. That's why when we talk about over 200 plus partners, those partners help us sustain the program. NASA is in fact providing the seed corn, the expertise, and technical assistance, but the grant, the sites have as part of their responsibility is to pursue partnerships and sustainability. It's working quite well.
Thank you, Ed.
Let me expand a little bit on Ellen's question. Do you have plans to conduct formal evaluations of this so that we have a better sense, or you have a better sense, of which aspects of your program are producing the best results?
We do. That is one of our milestones for this year. NASA headquarters under the Office of Education is developing a data tracking system of which we will be a part of. One of my team members is presently on the working group to do that. As we move through our plans and looking at what we need to do for SEMAA, we have to make sure that it is compatible with the national. Yes, we will have that plan in place by the end of 07.
Let me ask you a follow-up question. This is a science program, science, engineering, and math. Do you have any life sciences that you actually teach?
Yes, we do.
You do.
We
How
also
seriously? Can you tell us about that?
Well, we have the astrobiology curriculum that we have instituted in Gadsden Public Schools. And so it's looking at, we talk about also the human being in space. You know, what happens in space? What happens to it?
The question we're really trying to get to is whether NASA has been fabulously successful at building grassroots support for space exploration over the years. To what extent is this an education program versus an extension of that public affairs work?
It is definitely not public affairs work. We separated that some time ago. Public affairs work we look at is informal education. This education has outcomes, it has goals and objectives, and it aligns itself to the new framework that NASA has adopted, which has 6 criteria of operating principles. All of those are based on educational principles, not public affairs.
I understand. We have just a little time remaining. David.
Your application says that your operating budget is $4.23 million a year.
Correct.
Does that include capital expenditures for the equipment in the labs, or would that be in addition?
That includes the capital expense